Hello dear friends, don't expect a spectacular demolition, but rather a gentle one like a mudslide. Opinion piece, chain reaction, trade war, domino effect, chain of events, snowball effect, economic impact, no longer a rumor, classified operation, emergency meetings, cycle of consequences, political change in Europe, diversification of alliances. Let's start. The domino effect is a phenomenon in which an initial event triggers a series of similar events in a linear sequence, generating a cumulative effect also known as a chain reaction. The metaphor comes from the game of dominoes. Pushing a vertically placed domino causes it to fall and knock down the next one, and so on, until they all fall one after the other. This describes a chain of events where a first event triggers a chain reaction of incalculable consequences, illustrating the interconnectedness and potential expansive impact of any action or event. According to Jude Bington, the domino effect is now global. France, Germany, and Canada are pleading for emergency diplomatic meetings, not for fear of instability, but because their networks within Washington are collapsing. Directives from Davos and Brussels are no longer being transmitted. Those in charge are isolated. Their foot soldiers are being evicted and their control is weakening. According to Benjamin Fulford, with Europe's defeat comes infighting. France now seems willing to make a fool of Germany to reach an agreement with China. An official French report calls for the revival of Franco-Chinese cooperation. France sometimes has more common interest with China than with its partners in the old continent. While Germany is considered a false friend of France, this was the context of the phone call between Macron and Putin, where Macron requested a ceasefire in Ukraine, something Russia rejected. The Russians claim that the underlying problem of the Nazis must be resolved before peace can be agreed upon. The political shift in the US is generating a domino effect on the European Union, both economically and politically, and geostrategically. This triggers a series of chain reactions in the EU, forcing Europe to adapt and redefine its role on the world stage. The rise of sovereignist leaders in the US serves as inspiration and legitimacy for Eurosceptic parties. This fragments the European consensus and weakens EU integration. A shift toward protectionist policies in the US often results in the imposition of tariffs on European products, affecting key sectors such as the automotive, agricultural, and industrial sectors. Faced with US trade hostility, the EU is seeking to diversify its markets, accelerating agreements with other regions such as Latin America and Asia, and strengthening cooperation with powers such as China and India. US pressure for Europe to increase its defense investment, coupled with the perception of the diminished reliability of the US umbrella, has prompted the EU to approve historic investment in the military sector to advance its strategic autonomy and seek greater defense self-sufficiency. Takedown. According to Kerry Cassidy, this is not a campaign but a takedown. As the dark side strives to maintain control through accusations, distractions, and economic sabotage, the reset they swore would never happen is being unleashed. The GSRA framework is no longer a rumor, but a classified operation moving at full speed. This is already happening in her view. It is the final blow to the system of financial slavery with the debt jubilee, the end of income tax, a gold-backed currency, the liberation of suppressed technology, and the restoration of common law worldwide. This is the moment. The reset is not yet here, it is happening now. You were born for this hour. Central banks are buying gold as if it were a war. The BRICS are developing commodity-backed monetary systems. CO budgets are sweeping across global corporations. QFS infrastructure is being quietly implemented. Even major governments are testing debt forgiveness program. Do you think it is a coincidence? Full thought summary. What happened to the real Trump? Asks Benjamin Fulford. Space Force sources claim the real commander-in-chief is now at a smart air base in Greenland, collaborating with Elon Musk to overthrow the one-party system in Washington. Most citizens still believe in factions and parties, when in reality it's all about a great relay race for freedom, organized by a force superior to the government that controls all these actors. The military faction is angry about the new big and beautiful budget law because it implies more debt. They are aware of the Dragon family's offer of unlimited debt-free financing. Perhaps they are preparing to accept the Dragon family's offer of hundreds of trillions of dollars in exchange for a permanent end to warmongering. However, it is more likely that they are planning new provocations for Event X in another attempt to start a third world party. As the West continues its collapse under Babylonian-style debt slavery, the rest of the world is abandoning the Western financial system. This week, the BRICS countries announced a new development bank that will become a new investment platform free from external agendas. The BRICS have just added Indonesia, Belarus, Bolivia, Kazakhstan, Cuba, Nigeria, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Uganda, and Uzbekistan as partner countries. Japan is also on the verge of leaving the G7 to join the BRICS. We also note that the massive earthquake and tsunami in Japan predicted for July 5th didn't occur. This is because Japan can now retaliate similarly if attacked with seismic weapons. Breaking news. Ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino just resigned. She only spoke of freedom of speech freedom in words, but she is actually a member of the Davos Forum. Former Bush official Catherine Fitz claims that the Epstein files could expose a cover-up of $20 billion missing from the Pentagon. Putin speaks out against the situation in Gaza. In quotes, "There is no justification for the terrible events taking place in the Gaza Strip. When you see the dead children, how the women and the elderly suffer, your eyes fill with tears." Close quotes. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.